Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hello, welcome back. It's Michelle Wong here, and this episode is actually a very special and different one. My good friend and business partner, Christa Realba, she also has an amazing podcast called Ambitious Mama. And what her and I decided to do was to interview each other. So this episode that you're going to hear very soon is her interviewing me on her show, but we decided to make it so that I'm also interviewing her and her experience. So it's going to be a fun one. So you'll hear her introduce us, and the conversation rolls from there. So enjoy this episode. Definitely follow Christa. She's been a good friend and mentor of mine, and she has so much wisdom to offer, and I'm excited to introduce you to her and her work. Enjoy. And then it's all serious.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I have my friend Michelle Wong here, and she also has me. This is a dual interview. So, you guys, Michelle has a podcast. I obviously have a podcast. So we're going to do this double whammy here, because we were going to do them separately, but then we figured, let's do this in one shot.
Yeah, why not? Let's just have two girlfriends talking.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So meet Michelle Wong. I'm Christa Realba. We are podcasters. What else are we, Michelle? We're so many things.
We're total boss babes.
Yes. Total boss babes. We are lovers of all things wellness and all things holistic and all things that will help us to grow and evolve. I think it's safe to say we're personal development junkies.
Yeah, I think so.
I would also say one thing we do not have in common is Michelle has more certifications and credentials in a weekend than I've had in my whole life.
Very true.
Very true. So I'm excited to learn about your podcast, and this podcast is still very much a baby. And let's see where this conversation goes. But I need to know, what is a sacred emergence, and why did you call your podcast that, Michelle?
Thank you so much, Christa. First, it's really an honor that we get to do a dual podcast in one together. So thanks for the idea and for reaching out and inviting me. Yeah, so Sacred Emergence. I knew that I wanted to create a podcast, and I was having resistance to it though. And what intimidated me was the consistency of it. But I knew I wanted to get my voice out there, because there's so much in the personal development world. So much, I'll say, one of my pet peeves is the word self-improvement, because I don't like thinking that there's we all need to be improved. I just feel like we are perfect as we are. But that doesn't mean to say that there's always room for us to grow and to learn and to evolve, and that's why we're here. And so that was the voice that I wanted to get out, that we are amazing as we are. If we feel bad about ourselves, if we're having crappy emotions or feelings, it's really important for us to really honor and recognize those feelings versus push it away. And one day when I was in my dance class, I was thinking about my podcast, what would I call it? And then it was through dance that Sacred Emergence, boom, it just downloaded. And it felt so good. Yeah.
I love those downloads. so
Yeah.
good. You're just like, yep, that's it. Boom. And you trust it.
Yeah. And I was like, at first I was like, well, but will people even understand what it means? Like sacred emergence? Like, but I was like, I'll explain it. Like it
Yeah.
makes sense to me. And it really is. It's like our soul, like we are emerging from wherever we are, and it's a sacred process. So
Mm. I love that it came to you from dance and
thank you.
through
I love it too.
movements.
Yeah. It's like the embodiment, right? So, and that's a large piece of like what I stand for and getting in our bodies and moving. And so it just really spoke to me too.
Yeah, I could totally see that download, how that happened. I can like literally picture you.
Thank you. I know.
I
It's like, yeah.
I get to see you
Cause like
moving and
I would literally,
flowing.
yeah. And like, you know, a lot of times when I'm trying to brainstorm something like a name, it's such a logical, linear process that it becomes like I can't sleep, you know, because my mind is just
Mm-hmm.
spinning. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just, when we get into our bodies, I think when we allow space for it, we allow the
Mm-hmm.
downloads to come. So yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel like we need to possibly elaborate a little bit more on I think we both have a lot to say about the balance between masculine and feminine energy and what that means,
Mm-hmm.
and how important that is in as a woman in order to thrive and to really totally just take all of the opportunities that are available to us, and at the same time of being in our feminine. Like, it is a beautiful dance for sure, and it's easy to kind of get tripped up and fall one more into one than the other. And what
Mm-hmm.
you were sharing in terms of like your fear of the consistency piece, because that the masculine energy is that's like the consistency, that structure, that routine, right? Which I can see why you were resisting that.
Totally. Yeah. It's like, totally. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, I have to do this every week. What if I run out of things to say? What if I run out of people to interview? Which, you know, that hasn't happened
The what if, yes.
Yeah, the
Well,
what ifs, totally.
now on my podcast, I know that if people have been listening to it from the beginning, which might not be the case, and the first episode or two is probably a bit of a hot mess. I haven't had the courage to actually listen again. But that's when the download happened, and it literally woke me out of my sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, boom, woke up.
Mm,
And it was me very much compartmentalizing who I am, and that was putting me as a mom in a box and me as an ambitious woman in a box. And we can be one of many things, right? And really being confident in our entire journey, and not just like sections of it. And kind of like just like you said, like, I agree with you. I don't think I truly love that self-improvement. I love personal growth and development for sure, and growing as a human. But I think that's the trap of like that we're not good enough, because that's what's stopping each and every one of us from truly owning it, because at some point of our lives, and probably someone well-meaning told us that we weren't enough of something,
mm-hmm.
and we believed it.
Totally. Yeah,
Right. And I think that's
totally.
really where
Yeah.
my blocks were happening, with like the separation of the two parts of my life and livelihood, where I didn't think I was mom enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not mom
That is
enough. What does
so,
that
that's
mean?
so, I, that's so interesting, right? It's like the stories you
Yeah.
tell ourselves, because from like, just from my perspective, I always, you know, you're a dedicated mom. You always have time for your boys and like you make them a priority, and you're also incredibly ambitious and you get so much done. And so I always like when you launched your podcast, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense.
Mm,
So I'm glad you had that 3 a.m. wake up, like, oh, this is it. Yeah.
this is it. But I think we all have situations in our life where we feel we walk into a room, or a scenario and we feel unworthy, less than, not good enough,
Mm.
fear of being judged. What is that about?
Oh my gosh, that's like the $1,000,000 question, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of times it comes from childhood conditioning. That's, like that would be like, that's the answer to that. But like really, I think a lot of times it just comes from like comparing ourselves to other people. We know the people that we looked up to, being bullied, like all of the things. And I know for me, I grew up to be a people pleaser, and I'm
Mm,
still unraveling that. It's a really conscious thing of, okay, what is it that I really want and what's true for me? And once I tap into that, then it matters less what
mm,
the results. Once I tap into my own truth, and that takes time because we're not taught to sit back and really feel into what we want to bring out, like what's in alignment for us. A lot of times it's like be and go, 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 um, follow
yeah.
the trends that we lose ourselves.
What's your earliest memory of like being that people pleaser, being
Mm.
the nice girl, just not to upset anyone?
There's the high school memory that is more, it's more memorable, like it just hit because it's high school and all of that, the
Mm-hmm.
mean girls. And then there's also thinking back to like, even though I was in first grade, like grade one, I, I'm an only child, so I'm gonna say like I got my way. So like
Yeah,
sharing, like what's sharing? But
yeah.
like I remember that, and I think it was in first grade when I realized when I was nice to someone, like when I shared my candy, like I got a friend. Um,
Mm,
or I remember there was another girl in my class, and I asked her because it was recess, and she had like a bag of chips, and like we always ask like, oh, can I have one? Can I have one? And she almost ran. She almost didn't have any left. And she was like, well, I'm almost done. Why don't you just take the whole thing? And I was like, that was so kind. And I liked her even more. So I think it was like from that place of wanting to make other people happy so that I would make friends.
mm-hmm.
Because before that, it was hard for me to make friends because I was like, I don't want to share,
Yeah.
And so I think that was the conditioning of I have to give, 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 and make people happy in order to have friends and and be liked.
Yeah, and it is true.
So
Like
yeah.
you probably have the education, probably some sort of certificate on this piece I'm about to ask you. But you guys, I joke, but Michelle's seriously the most like certified person I know. So you better subscribe to her podcast. um, she knows what she's talking about. Okay, so there's a lot of like, probably amazing textbook, science and stuff, like the psychology about the earliest memories and how that forms who we are as adults. And that's really kind of what I was really asking you that about, why I was asking you that, because like when I was working with a coach one time, and she was trying to unravel this feeling of being unworthy amongst people that I was equally as successful as or even more successful than. And it actually brought us to, it was like she led me through it in a meditation, and it literally took me back to kindergarten. And I was
Mm.
very tiny. Like I'm not very big now, but I was very tiny in kindergarten, and I was the smallest one in class, and I couldn't open my thermos. And every time I had my thermos, I couldn't open it myself, so all the other kids would open it for me. And or I'd have to get help like reaching for something, or them tying my shoe or something like that. And it stuck with me, so that even when I seen them all of the years growing up, I didn't feel like I was as good as them, even when we were in high school. It's like
Mm.
crazy that just those early little memories, I I thought that meant that I was not as good as them because I was a little bit behind, um, like developmentally and growing. I still haven't caught up, but you know, it was like my self-worth was really wrapped up in that. And it sounds so crazy, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the tools to say that I was, and I remember them being maybe like a little bit kind of dismissive of me, but I don't remember anything being overly mean, but it definitely made me feel that I was not as good as them.
Mm.
And that's kindergarten in my
Yeah, well,
30s.
right? And like now I would say like you're mighty and you're fierce.
Yes.
Even if, you know, you might be small, like whatever. Like
Yeah, I've
physically, like whatever,
definitely,
but you're yeah.
yeah, I think it's like that, but that journey of becoming more of yourself, I don't think that ever
Mm-hmm.
ends, right?
No.
And it's
Yeah,
like, it's interesting. You're
totally.
just peeling back the layers and just speaking more boldly and more authentically. And you're just like, you can see, like, um, I'm still in my 30s. You're still in your 30s too, right, Michelle?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're holding on a couple more years.
Late 30s. Just
uh,
yeah, like white knuckling it. Just kidding.
Same, but I can see how, like, women who are, you know, a little bit ahead of us, how they speak so like unapologetically. I can see how that happens. You're just like, F it, I'm just saying exactly how it is.
Yeah, and I think like I love what you were saying about like it never ends, like the evolution, like the growth, because I think that's why we're here on earth, like looking at like the big scheme of things. Like that's why we're here. We're here to learn and grow our soul. And you know what they say, like the first 7 years of our time here on earth, like it's all like we're all sponges, right? Like we don't even
Mm-hmm.
know what we're picking up subconsciously. And so
Mm-hmm.
what happens in the first 7 years, it's like it becomes our life's work to grow and to learn and to like really like realize a lot of the conditioning is a lot of it's not true from when we were young,
Mm,
and it makes
I
us
know.
like totally fierce, you know. So but it takes work and awareness to do that, and not everybody chooses that.
Yeah, and I think that path is so worth choosing, because the opposite is living, it has to be living in a place of fear, because we can't live in both love and expansive thinking and also fear. It's one or the other. And I think, like,
Exactly.
if you don't go the path of like, oh, being curious and learning, and like not being so dead set in things are this way or that way. It's like, well, maybe it's like this, and maybe I could learn this instead. And maybe that, even though maybe I wasn't good at this for all these years, maybe that doesn't have to be true forever.
Yeah, and just questioning our thoughts and like, oh, is that really true? I think it's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely not like I'm still a student, I'm still learning, and like sometimes I'll like, where did that thought come from? You know, like I've
Yeah.
had that thought forever and then it manifests in my daily life and I'm like, wait, that doesn't have to be true. I can change
Yeah.
it. So,
I love
yeah.
Byron Katie's The Work. And that is questioning,
Yeah.
it's literally questioning your thoughts. Like, you know, you have a crazy thought like, I don't know, my husband's a jerk. That's not true. My husband's not a jerk. But it's like, my husband's a jerk. Okay, so is that true? Do I know for sure that it's true? How do I feel if that wasn't true? Right? Like, so it's like
Yeah.
literally asking questions to the statements like, well, do I know for sure it's true? Like, for sure, I'd bet my life on it that that is just the truth and there's nothing more to it. Well, no. Like, so it's a really cool little, it's simple breakdown. If you guys go to thework.com, it's a free download, a genius tool in unraveling some of
It
those.
is.
It's basically questioning any thought that causes you pain.
Mhm. Yeah, and like it is, it's simple and yet it's so enlightening. You're like, ah, it's like, oh shoot, it's not. It's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm responsible for like I think it's like when we put our responsibility in our own hands that okay, this is where the work comes in, right? Maybe that's why
Oh,
she calls
yeah.
it the work.
Yeah, because
But
that
like
what happens.
it's
You
not
flip it
easy.
around. Yeah.
Yeah.
In that inquiry, you have to
Yeah.
flip
It's
it around, and it's like, well, is it like, how am I a jerk? And
right.
then you're
I
like,
know. And
wait,
that's
I'm
like, oh,
actually
damn
the jerk.
it.
Oh shit.
Like, what?
It was way easier when he was the jerk.
Uh, yeah, totally. It's like,
Oh,
oh, the finger's back at me.
yes. Oh my
Oh,
God. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about this masculine and feminine thing. And it's like, for anyone who's listening to us and they're like, okay, this is a little bit much, like it's really not so out there. It's really, really simple. So, but I think having both Michelle and I, we like, you and I have different strengths, eh, Michelle?
I
In
think so.
terms of our personality. And I know at times I've been like overtly masculine in my drive that doesn't necessarily serve me,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
You may have also may
Yes.
actually be able to pull that up in terms of your memory bank because we've known each other for a while. Whereas I come in and it's like do or die. This is how it's going down. This is the plan. When there's room for both, but then the opposite of that is like, just allowing things to grow organically and la la la. And it's like there's zero grit in that
Hmm.
analogy. So it's like the marriage of both is how beautiful things are created. What would you say that you fall more to naturally, more masculine or more feminine?
Oh, that is such like a good question. And if you were to ask me this like 3 months ago, honestly, I would say masculine, like default, like masculine. And one of the questions, I forget who, it might be Pat Allen, and she's like a relationship expert. She's in her 70s. But I think one of the questions that she'll ask to see if you're more feminine or masculine inclined is, do you want to be cherished or do you want to be respected? And like
Mm,
whenever, like when I heard that, I was like, respected. Like I don't even know what it means to be cherished. Like what does that feel like? So I was like, well, that means I'm more masculine. Um, but with my injury, with my knee injury, I've really had to sit back and receive.
mm-hmm,
And it's a humbling experience when my friends are coming over and they're cleaning, the floors, they're doing my dishes, because it's just like just receiving all of that. I realized like when I was asked that question again, do I want to be cherished or respected? I was like, oh, being cherished is something really incredible. And for the first time, I felt what it felt like to be cherished. And
mm-hmm,
so I don't know anymore. I think like um, my linear logical side, when fear kicks in, I would say I fall into the masculine, but my essence, like I've been in such a wounded masculine place that it covered the feminine. And
mm,
that really came out when I had to just surrender to receiving help and support. And so I would say I'm 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 practicing more of becoming my feminine self.
mm.
But I wear the mask of the masculine really well because I've been taught to live in this fear base for so long. Yeah, so that was a long answer to your question.
Yeah, it's interesting one because the thing is both men and women, we can't live too much in one side of the pendulum without having some sort of emergency where it could be like a physical health emergency. It could be just things are not going to flow as they could and should in that abundant way where there's more ease and flow in your life if you are one or the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been watching Shine On with Reese Witherspoon. She does these incredible interviews with powerful women. It's on Netflix right now. And she interviews Dolly Parton, and like, what a just amazing woman. It's like, if you weren't a fan, like, definitely watch it because it's just like, she's just so amazing. But anyways, it's like, she really, like, in terms of this conversation right now, she sums it up without probably even trying to. But it is like that, and I guess in the Southern kind of way, it's like push and pray, right? So you want
Mm,
something, you're out there pushing for it, but you're also praying for it, right? So you're allowing
mm,
the divine or God or the universe, you're allowing another hand in it, but you're also out there with your grit making it happen too, right? So that's why, like, the word like hustle is not currently like, on trend. Used to be like hustle hard. Now it's like, I don't even know what the t-shirts would say at the moment. Like, I don't know, spiritual something or another, right? But it's like you do need both. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But like, if you're just going out there and you're just like, just focus on your goals and just focus on results, you're going to burn yourself out, and you're going to miss the opportunities along the way that weren't part of the plan,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, totally. And yeah, like and that was me like for the majority of my life. I was like, okay, I got to get it. I'm going to do it. And then I was experiencing a lot of burnout. So I'm like, okay, something's not working, right? And then like
Mm-hmm.
I talk a lot, well, I haven't talked a lot about human design, but it's a big passion of mine, and so I'm learning more about it. And the more I do, it's like, oh, like we can totally do things differently and honor our energy, and because we're all energetically different. So yeah. Well, would you say that if you were to peel back the layers, if you tend towards more masculine or feminine, Krista?
Definitely more masculine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's got me into a lot of trouble. And even in terms of the dynamic of being married, right?
Mm,
And not allowing for, not allowing to be cherished and feeling uncomfortable being cherished, right? That's an
mm,
interesting dynamic that's not healthy, right? Um, and I've been actually mentioning this on a few of the past episodes, so I feel like there's a full dedication episode coming soon. But like, when we talk about like that, either like mental health or physical health emergency that can happen, I was so in the masculine for so many years of doing, goal focus, and just like really burning the candle at both ends. And when we found out we were pregnant with our first son, Curtis, that wasn't part of the plan. Like, it was a surprise. And I had it in my head that, I don't know where I picked up this subconscious idea, but had it in my head that you could not bring a baby into the world unless you owned a home. Okay. That was
mm,
some sort of random belief that I had. And I'm like, nope, we have to buy a house. Well, at that point, Mike and I, we were not married. We were both like living in Toronto, one of the more expensive cities in Canada, for many years. We both went there when we were teenagers, had just tons of debt, zero savings, not exactly great for the bank to give us a loan. And I was like, absolutely not. We're owning a home. So I just continued working at that, and not even the same level of I was before, but even a more accelerated level. And then when it was time to surrender in the most feminine way of giving birth, like, now you can see how I was literally setting myself up for like a complete catastrophe in terms of physical, mental, emotional. And I
mm,
did not know. I did not know how to just rest. I didn't know how to slow down. I didn't know how to be. I didn't know how to be cherished. And that caused 2 years of just intense healing that needed to
mm,
happen
mm,
in order for me just to feel, I don't even know how you could say it, because it's not like you ever can get back to pre-baby you, I don't think, but
mhm,
to get back to feeling grounded and whole,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
2 years,
Yeah.
like, that's a long time. So the,
Yeah.
in terms of being torment, like feeling that torment and that darkness for that long, So that's really like, so I do know that my default is masculine, but that to be said, Curtis was born 9 years ago. So I did
Mm-hmm.
learn so much in that journey, but it's still a conscious choice I need to make to take care of me, to allow, to step back, to delegate, to cherish myself, to nourish myself, all those things.
Yeah, and as you were talking, it's like what came up for me is like we need to be easy on ourselves in terms of, because we are brought up in a patriarchal society, and so when women went back to work, like there was this need to prove ourselves and to be like the guys. So I
Mm-hmm.
think like there was like a switch, in order to have to fit in and be respected. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a lot to be said for that as well, versus like now I feel like as things are shifting back to equilibrium, there's a dance, right, of like playing in the extremes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's more awareness now of like, okay, like how do we as women balance our roles? And the work is still a lot on us, because the like men tend to, they just pretty linear, like like I think as women we have I don't know if responsibility is the right word, but there's just more work on our end as well, if that makes sense.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And that's, and I mean, we'll never know what it's like to be a guy, like in terms of that role and that emotional toll. I don't know what it's like to walk in their shoes. But I have had, interesting conversations with my husband where the emotional toll of being a woman and caring for children specifically, like that is unique. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just different. We're just wired differently, and it doesn't mean that dads don't love their kids as much or anything like that. But the emotional responsibility and toll it's at a different level. it's
Mm,
like it's
yeah.
like your heart is walking around outside of your body all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But like back to kind of like that what you were mentioning, that the whole equilibrium of like, we fought so hard to be taken seriously, and bring it tying that into like the conversation of the masculine and feminine energy. The whole planet will thrive more when we're all in balance. It's not about women showing up and being like hyper masculine and like super boss bitch mode, you know what I mean? Like, and just be trying to be like a guy, and just, that's not going to heal anything. And also it's not like our men need to learn from the heart that it's already in them. It's not about them being more like a woman. It's just allowing that compassion and that trust and that space. And both women and men, I think we all can benefit from that balance.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And especially um, like I forget where I heard this, but I heard like men, for them to tap into their hearts, when they're around like a woman who is more in their feminine, it allows for their heart to open up more. And that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So totally. I just love what you said. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, we talk a lot about, I think there's so much room for, I think you and I really live in a bit of a bubble, to be honest, like in terms of how we, in a beautiful way, the most beautiful bubble, um, because we have chosen a path where we surround ourselves with people who support each other, and we understand the powers of collaboration. We understand the powers of cheering each other on,
Mm-hmm.
and sisterhood. We know the value of that, right? And I would love to see more of that happen too for men everywhere, and to
Mm,
to open up and to allow, trust amongst, their friends, and just allow that space. And I do see that actually in a beautiful way with my husband and his friends. But they actually had training on it because they went to theater school, right? So they
oh,
went,
that's
right? So
awesome.
So that like, that's like, they're so close, and they talk about their feelings, and like they have a really beautiful dialogue, and I think it's so special, and I'm so grateful that Mike has those tools that he would not have learned from his upbringing necessarily, but he was able to learn that, and now he can teach that to our boys. And I think that's
Mm,
really special too. But I mean, that's like theater school, like 3 years of university
right.
level, about like they're like rolling on the ground. I don't even know what they do in theater school, but they're like doing their to like get in touch with their body, and but yeah, the masculine feminine balance will really bring healing.
I agree. And I think there are programs out there for men, but they say it's always underground.
Yeah.
What you just said. So like I think like the Good Men Project or the Good Men Project, I think that's one where like, yeah, it's like it's crazy if guys like I don't know, like life is hard on its like life can be so hard. So having that support structure is so critical.
Hmm. Yeah, we don't have to be Mr. Macho.
No,
Oh my gosh. Well,
no.
I want to know, because we're wrapping up 2019. I think we have 40-ish days left of the year.
Which
Um,
is crazy.
which is nuts,
So
right?
crazy.
So, with all of your incredible experiences this year, so much personal growth and inquiry that's gone on in your world, what would you recommend, or encourage the women listening to consider as into this time of like reflective year, to maybe make some changes, or to consider a new something going into 2020?
Mm. Wow. Well, the first thing that came to my mind when you were talking was meditation. I've always meditated. That's not true. I haven't always meditated, but um, like meditation has been something that I've just brought into practice more and more and more.
Hmm.
And one of like, and I talk about this, like I talk about it to all of my friends and I've shared it on my podcast, but I wanted to talk about it again. I just have fallen in love with Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations. I mean, they're long, they're like
Mm.
an hour. Um, but his meditation has shifted, like it's literally shifted my my own thinking pattern. It shifted my own energy and how I see things. I shifted my perspective and how I do things. And like a lot of times when I meditate, like take a few deep breaths or, listen to like a clearing energy meditation, like I feel good afterwards. But with Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditation, it's like, holy moly, like I just stepped out of a different dimension. It's just so good. So I would recommend that, playing around with that. And honestly, I think if it wasn't for my injury, I would have really resisted it because I'm like, oh, I have to like visualize and I have to like, what is this? Like sometimes I'm not I'm not about like future visualization. I'm like, why can't we just be in the present moment? But
Hmm.
his meditation is really, really good. And if anything, it teaches us to be in the present moment. So I definitely recommend that for like something to do in 2020 to really just advance the level of our soul.
Mm. Know
So
what?
yeah.
You're the second person on my podcast to recommend his meditations.
Really? Oh my God, that's a
Yeah,
sign.
it's a sign.
Yeah, it's a
I didn't
sign.
take action the first time, so the universe is still knocking. Oh
Yeah,
man.
and I mean, yeah, and he has a lot of different meditations. The one that I was gifted was his "You Are the Placebo" meditation 2, because he has
Mm.
1 and 2, and number 2 is just shorter. It's a little bit shorter, like 10 minutes shorter, but that's the one that I do every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to look for it and put it in the show notes.
Yeah, and I can send you the link if you need it, but totally.
Beautiful. Okay, so what else do you want to talk about before we wrap this baby up, girl?
Oh my goodness. Well, for my listeners, we talked about me the whole time. Let's just
Good.
do a little quickie on like what's happening in your world. So, just for my audience, Christa is an incredible like entrepreneur, beautiful soul, and like so powerful, and a really thriving 6-figure residual income business, and a beautiful coach, has an amazing team of entrepreneurs and network marketing, and I'm part of her team. And so, yeah, what do you have coming up?
Okay, I like that. I like that little intro. It's like, oh, hey. Uh, thanks, honey. What's coming up? Well, right now I'm really excited about like creating the vision for 2020. This time, or in December last year, I hosted a vision book workshop where we crafted our vision, like a portable vision board. And I'm doing that again. It's coming up in it's actually the beginning of January. So my focus right now is wrapping up this 2019 vision. And it's so cool because you use like your 4 core values as like your guiding, like the 4 guiding lights, if you will, or chapters of your book. And you use that to kind of help you make decisions and to guide you through the year. And so as I'm flipping through the book, this literally just happened before this call, and I'm seeing in the chapter on legacy. So this is just like collages of pictures as you would see in a vision board, and I'm seeing just a pink piece of construction paper, and it says plant trees. That's was part of my legacy chapter,
Mm.
and I'm like, it is almost December. I live in Southern Ontario. How am I planting any trees? Right? So I was like, what trees am I planting in the dead of winter? And then literally seconds later, my husband texts me and says, he's like, hey, can you share this on your Instagram stories? I'm like, what is he sending me? Like, he's not really so much into like Instagram. And it's a screenshot of a project, I guess, that him and my son are contributing to, planting trees. Like
Oh my
literally,
gosh,
it
that's
says
incredible.
Mike and Curtis planted 20 trees, and it's for this organization. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. I just figured out how we can plant trees. So I was like
Wow.
so excited. So to me, like, it's so important to not just to go through life just willy-nilly and just like see where the wind blows you. Like, decide how you want to make an impact, what changes you'd like to see in your life, how you want to feel is like everything. And like, forget about the resolutions or like the hardcore like this amount of money by this date, but like, put pen to paper, put it in some pictures, feel what that feels like, because it's not necessarily just about driving that car. It's going to be about who you will need to become in order to earn that car. Who, like, if your work has anything to do with the betterment of other people's lives, the only way for you to make money is by changing the world in some capacity. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you and I, our paychecks with one of our businesses that we have mutually compatible in network marketing, the the only way for us to earn a dollar is literally to get the proper amount of nutrition, antioxidants, supplementation, into like all the good stuff at the cellular level of people. So we're literally affecting people at the cellular level. That's the only way we get paid, right? So it's pretty cool to say, okay, well, I want to bring the family to Costa Rica for a month. Well, how many lives of them am I going to have to affect in a positive way in order to bring that to fruition?
Mm.
And I think like the whole idea, like, creating a vision board is nothing new. um, Oprah was talking about it way back when. But it really does help to, if you're connected to your why on some capacity, even if you don't know it, but you just like, if you like, you don't know that you're making decisions because you see this on your vision board, connect to it every day, even just glancing by it when you're brushing your teeth or whatever. You're going to make these little tiny baby decisions. You're going to veer left, veer right in different ways. That is going to get you there. Right? So I guess my advice is like, just know where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. There's so much to be said in like the creation of a vision board. I like to call mine a theme board. Like this is my
Mm-hmm.
theme for the year. It's
Yeah.
so fun, and I think that's like, make sure you're having fun as you're doing it, because like that's the energy we want, right? We want to have fun. And so I
Joy is
love
your
that. I love
job.
that you have a vision booklet. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Joy is your job. Yeah.
Joy
And
is
I
your
love that
job,
you have a
baby.
book so you can carry it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
portable. So
good.
take it everywhere we go. So yeah, so that's happening. And then like, I feel like it's just about clearing that space for the goodness to come. And I just did an exercise with Carolyn Lee, who you and I both know. And it was really about the process of eliminating things that really don't serve us. So they don't fill us with joy. They aren't super productive. We don't necessarily enjoy doing them. So it's really being honest with what we can eliminate from our lives. Um, and they might be like tasks that feel okay, but they're not great, right? So it's about really, it might be about saying no to the good so you can make more room for the great too.
Mm, yes, I love that. So good.
Mm-hmm. Because it's easy to be busy, you know. Um, and I've been experimenting with this lately, and I got a call from the principal at the school, and she said, "Hey, are you free to come volunteer today?" And she didn't just call me randomly. I said that I would be open to it, and I was like, "Oh, sure, yeah, I can do that." So I literally just crossed out my entire schedule, and I show up at the school, and it was the most mundane, non-effective work that any probably they could have just taken a student out of class to do. I don't even know. Like, it was just, I was not making an impact, a difference. No one cared. It was not like it was.
Oh my goodness.
And I was there for like 7 hours with
Oh my God.
I was like, well, this is going on the eliminate list. It's like one and done. Thank you very much. Yeah,
Wow.
you know what I mean? But it's like, I mean, I hope I did not offend anyone who volunteers at the school, because there are volunteer jobs that are really, really important and necessary, make a big impact. It's just that one in particular was just like, just a tedious job that needed to be done, you know?
Mm.
Anywho, that was not a good use of my time.
Hashtag stop wasting my time.
Oh, just wait till the principal listens to this. But I'm pretty sure she won't. Maybe, who knows? Anyways, I just got fired from my position. Well, Michelle, I think I better hit the road. I got to go pick up my little guy. But I am so happy for this time, just to chat with you. Maybe I get to connect with a few people who are listening to your awesome podcast, and my friends get to meet you too, and dive into, I mean, your wealth of knowledge on all things that have to do with personal growth and spiritual, you know, furtherment and development. And I still have to figure out my birth time, so you could help me with my, know more about my
I think we
horoscope.
nailed
But
it. That was hilarious. But
it's funny.
I think the one that, yeah, I think the one that we said as your birth time is the right one, because still nail it. See if you can find it, but I'm pretty sure it's the right time.
It was that comment
Oh.
about the personal battery pack. I was like, oh, that might be me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you are definitely in human design world. You are a generator. And that totally makes sense. You have like this strong battery. Um, and then in astrology, I'm just curious what your rising is, because your sun sign is Capricorn, regardless of the birth times you gave me, and then your moon sign is Cancer, which I love Cancer moons. There's just so much just nurturance and compassion. But yeah, so more to come on that astrology.
Yeah, you guys follow Michelle because I don't know much about that. So go follow Michelle. Michelle, where can they find you?
You can find me through, I hang out a lot on Instagram, michellewong.xo. And also I'm on Facebook with michellewong.xo. And then my website is michellewwong.com, or you can go to nonlinearpath.com. And yeah, those are the places where I hang out. And my podcast, Sacred Emergence.
Amazing. And everyone can find me over on Instagram, Christa Realba. Facebook is the same. I think I have the same handle across the board, just Christa Realba, and it's christarealba.com. And the podcast is Ambitious Mama.
Yay! I will share that in my show notes as well, so they'll know how to find you.
Amazing. Thanks, Michelle. I hope you have a
Thank
great
you.
day, and also continuing with your healing journey. I hope it's, it's all something that can be behind you in your journey.
Thank you so much. It's been so fun, Christa. Thanks for having me on. And then I hope my listeners get to follow you and learn from you.
Awesome. Amazing. And Happy New Year. If you guys are listening to this, get your visions ready. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Join our free private Facebook group community, Sacred Emergence, to receive more connection, guidance, and support. And take part in our 5-day Inner Confidence Challenge to not only boost your confidence, but to help activate your inner leadership. Details in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing this with others who can benefit. Until next time.